All right, so we got the Jeffery Simmons perspective. How about the head coach's perspective? Here's Mike Vrabel on everything going on there and at minicamp.
Jeff just talked to us and he said that that he's on board with a plan with you and everybody else here to, at this point during this mini camp. But is it all designed to help him be at his freshest come training camp in the season at this point?
No, just doing exactly what we ask him to do. Like everybody else, everybody's got a different plan, and that's where we're at right now.
What is it that he can accomplish, being in the film room as opposed to, not having the field work like some of the other guys?
Well, we always ask guys that aren't, practicing to be doing and working just as hard. That's going to go on through training camp throughout the season. There's going to be times where guys aren't with us on the field, but we're going to need them on Sunday or whenever they can come back. So, just staying up on the installation. Some guys have gotten, 8 weeks of it. Some guys haven't. I would say that the guys that haven't been here have gotten caught up. They got caught up pretty quickly.
Can a player now come to something like this and determine his own availability? You have Terrell Williams said, and you said, he's doing what you want him to do. It seems like he came in, told you what he was willing to do. And
no, that's your perspective of it. That's not. I've never had an issue with that. Don't see that ever being an issue. So I hope that that's not something that you're going to write, Paul.
Terrell said he's healthy. So how many healthy players?
Again, I make a lot of decisions, and I get to decide who practices and who doesn't.
What do you want players to do from the time they leave here until camp starts? What will your message be on how to get?
Well, this is the most critical time of the offseason. We talk about the 9 weeks of OTAs, but these next 5 weeks will be the most critical time from the end of the season because. We'll have the rookies here, Jim. We talked about that yesterday. You asked about that yesterday. So Frank and everybody in the weight room will be working hard with them. It'll be hot. That'll be great for these guys to get out and get some of that and train in that. But then everybody kind of goes away. And so you don't want to lose what we've put in and then come back and be ready to go mentally and physically.
With Traylon where he is at this point, is there a separate plan for him from the other rookies, or how are you going about just getting him ready to go this offseason?
Well, he'll be here on Monday. He'll be here tomorrow.
Is the team culture where you want it to be?
Well, again, we've always is this your first year here with us?
It's my second.
Okay. And we've said that, I don't want to be redundant, but we've always said that culture, we have to go through some adversity to really identify what the culture is. And, we haven't really had much adversity in the offseason, and it's going to happen probably at times in training camp when it's hot and guys are tired. Do we have guys that are pushing through? That'll be pretty much the next step. And then, I don't think there'll be too much stress in the preseason games, but then, you really find out when the regular season happens and, see how things unfold, and then you'll determine, and I'll have to determine what our culture looks like.
Last year, you talked about how guys like Hilliard and Foreman had come in and how motivated they were by having been out of the league and on the street. Do you sense some of that same motivation and hunger in Josh Malone as he's coming here?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, we'd all, we're all trying to work as hard now that we have a job as when we didn't. And that's my responsibility to make sure that, we're not getting too comfortable and complacent because we do have a lot of those guys that have, like you mentioned, that have come in here, Buster Screen, and Texans didn't, they parted ways with Zach, with Cunningham. There's just a lot of guys that have been, whether they're undrafted or, or somewhere else that, things didn't work out, that they've come here and, taken advantage of whatever opportunity that they've gotten. So, Josh would be, one of those guys in that category.
Mike, from the outset, been 2-3 guys here in the last month or so that's kind of stood out to you from the younger group?
The only way that they would stand out is that they would be able to handle the installation quickly, make improvements. And again, physically, I think that would be hard to determine. So we'll reserve judgment for when we start playing.
Mike, you just talked about how
how the culture gets built often through the adversity of the season. From a lot of people watching from the outside, the AJ thing, you've had more veterans miss OTAs voluntarily this year than in past years. Is that a concern at all, or do you feel like you've gone through some of that adversity this year earlier than other years?
I don't know why it would be a concern that guys voluntarily chose not to come, no.
Beyond the operational stuff, what kind of strides has Malik made in revising the things that you guys want to revise?
I think there were some good, quick decisions yesterday in the red zone. I thought that there was, did a nice job holding the safety's eyes and, delivering ball on time. It's hard, and I watched it again after we finished, but, it's hard in the jog through. We're doing the jog through to just get, these plays in, and so I think that the timing it's not fair for the receivers and the quarterbacks, and and that's on me just to try to take care of those guys. The closer you get to the goal line, guys are going to start becoming more competitive, and I just reminded them, like let's just get these plays in, let's get them installed, and so I was conscious of the pace. We don't have pads on, and it's tight quarters, and so I think some of the timing down there wasn't very good, and they probably shouldn't even be throwing some of those balls. I just don't want to create bad habits. But yesterday there was some really, really good, quick, decisive decisions in the red zone.
How about mechanically, footwork, throwing motion?
Well, just trying to get some things, obviously when you progress through and you work from one read to the next, everything's got to be in tune. You got to be able to move your feet and get your shoulders set. And then, you teach them that, and then at some point in time they're going to go out and play and manufacture some plays on their own and just be talented and be instinctive. And so there's a fine line between both of those.
With the occasional sidearm throw or some of that impromptu stuff he does, or would you like to be more consistent?
No, we don't want to coach robots. We certainly want to make sure that we're sound in what we're doing, but there's going to be times in every position where guys are going to, if Harold comes under or gets a sack, or, Bud runs around the back of the pocket and gets a strip sack. Some of these things, and we've been through it as we're trying to create these poised and instinctive players that, you got to give them opportunity to make plays, but they can't be reckless and affect, what the entire team's doing. So that's just one example of a guy that feels like, hey, I saw the guy jump up and I needed to change my arm angle. We're going to try to coach them and teach them, but then they go out and play and, make sure that the results, are there.
Mike, Amani Hooker, what do you see as being the next step for him after a full year as a starter?
I think just continue to improve and take some ownership and, continue to cover, and when you have to get matched up with some bigger tight ends, and we ask a lot of them, and I think there was he does a lot for us. He plays different roles and blitzes and plays in the back part of the field. He's pretty versatile.
Is there anything you say to the rookies before you all break, just preparing them for this first time before they go into fall camp, and just kind of giving them?
We'll have conversations with them the next couple of weeks. I'll be in here just watching them and, seeing how they do. And, now's not the time to go to the Bahamas and, take long vacations.
How big will the reminder be on that with regard to the soft tissue injuries that we've talked about over time, and you've talked about this being a crucial period on that?
And I think you have to be able to train. You have to train in this heat. You have to stay hydrated. You have to go out there and, train the way that you're going to practice and practice the way that you're going to play. So conscious that the volume that they're going to be doing in the offseason and those next couple weeks are there. The speed, we're able to track their speed. We were trying to get everybody up to, at least 90% of their max game speed once a week throughout the offseason, showed them the numbers, communicated with the players, so that all of a sudden we're just not asking them to run fast and then shock their system. So we took time, and you see all these things that are set up so that we can track it. If they're not hitting it in practice, we get them over to the side and get them that speed work, and hopefully they're conscious of that while they're away from here.
In the last 3 years in the postseason, fans have very high playoff expectations, but what are your playoff expectations for this year?
First make them. And then win.
You know report date for camp yet, and the start date, first practice?
Yeah, I do.
Can you share it, or
No.
you still plan
It's a
to play?
26 for everybody except for the
26.
teams that play on Thursday.
Coach, looking at offseason overall, did you meet, exceed your expectations?